Here's a website that claims to have a new argument for a god's existence. It lays out a syllogism premise by premise. The first premise is, humanity will not become extinct before evolving into superhumanity. What exactly is superhumanity? It's hard to evaluate this claim without a clear picture of what this means. Perhaps what they have in mind is some kind of speciation such that our descendants accumulate so many mutations that they will no longer be able to produce fertile offspring with a human of today. That would probably take a few thousand years, and the likelihood that humans will survive that long is very debatable. The second premise is, either humanity probably will become extinct before evolving into superhumanity, or superhumanity probably would not have more decentralized destructive capacity than humanity has, or superhumanity probably would be more compassionate than we are. I think this is a false trichotomy. I think there are other conceivable scenarios. For example, perhaps humans of the future, if they survive, are no more compassionate than they are now, but they are sophisticated enough in judging their self-interest that they manage not to carry out a catastrophic war. The next premise is, superhumanity probably would have more decentralized destructive capacity than humanity has. I actually think this is a likely premise. The conclusion drawn from the previous two premises is, superhumanity probably would be more compassionate than we are. Since pragmatic self-interest is also probable, if not more so, I'm not convinced of this conclusion. The next premise is, either humanity probably will become extinct before evolving into superhumanity, or superhumanity probably would not create many worlds emulating its evolutionary history, or superhumanity probably created our world. The scenario in which superhumanity would be most likely to create worlds that recreate its evolutionary history that are like the world we currently live in is if superhumanity does it out of pragmatic self-interest. They wouldn't have sufficient concern for all of the suffering that the conscious entities inhabiting the worlds endure to prevent that suffering from being part of those worlds. The next premise is, superhumanity probably would create many worlds emulating its evolutionary history. And the conclusion drawn from the previous premises is, superhumanity probably created our world. And the further conclusion of the whole argument is, both superhumanity probably would be more compassionate than we are, and superhumanity probably created our world. I guess we are to infer that superhumanity is God. However, as I said, I think superhumanity would only create a world that is like our world if they were just fine with all of the suffering experienced within it. Such a civilization doesn't sound like it would be much, if any, more compassionate than our own. It would be very unlikely to be the kind of omnibenevolent, all-loving being that theists tell us their God is. This conclusion seems self-contradictory to me. To everyone who helps me out on Patreon, you're a big help. Thanks so much.